Video Games Recon.
Hello and welcome. My name is Nate from Video Games Recon, and in this episode I will be doing my first ever thoughts, theories and analysis video. And the game in question this time will be the new Black Ops 2 DLC Uprising. And here's the trailer in case you haven't seen it yet, so click the annotation on the screen. Without any further ado, now it's time for the main event of the Uprising DLC, and what we're all here for, the Zombies map Mob of the Dead, which is located in the prison on Alcatraz Island. Now there are a million things we could speculate on about the Zombies storyline and this map. It's hard to know where to start. So let's get into it right at the beginning of the first trailer and work our way through to the second trailer and discuss the locations and things we can see in those areas. The first location, known as Broadway, which is the real central walkway of Cell Block B, which was infamous for new prisoners to be marched down when first arriving in Alcatraz. So I'd expect this area to be very cramped and full of cells with lots of little hidey holes for Easter eggs and parts. The next location is the library, which has some very interesting objects in it. First of which is what looks like a ritual table. Now, I've heard people in other videos speculate that it could be a crafting table. However, I don't think it will be as simple as that, as if it is a crafting table, I think it will be much more likely you will be crafting a magic spell or a ritual, or perhaps even something to do with Purgatory or Afterlife mode, rather than simply building a weapon, for example. The next thing that grabs my attention is the weapon on the wall. Now, from this image it's quite tricky to figure out what weapon it is, but nevertheless I'm going to give it a go in the form of 3 most likely weapon types due to shape and size. My first guess is some type of sniper due to what looks like a slight upward incline in the middle of the gun, which could be a scope. If this is the case, I would think the most likely gun would be the SVUAS, as they only just released this sniper rifle in Die Rise, and it is unlikely they would put 2 new snipers in the DLC back to back. My next guess would be an assault rifle, and again due to the slight incline in the centre of the gun, I'm thinking either the M16 or the FAMAS, as they both have handles where the sight would normally be. Personally, I would much rather it be the FAMAS, as it would be cool to see how it compares to the other assault rifles. And finally, my last guess is a submachine gun. This time, due to the shape of the stock, I'm thinking perhaps the Type 100, because of the particular way the stock seems to bend, and the incline in the middle could be the Type 100's unorthodox clip. If I had to pick one of the 4 guns to be a Mob of the Dead, I would probably pick the FAMAS, with the Type 100 coming in a close second. How about you? What would you pick? The next location looks like a courtyard area at the perimeter of Alcatraz Island, and the building in this picture looks very much like Building 64, which is one of the first sites you see on the Alcatraz tour after arriving by boat. And man, does this picture give you a perspective of the scale of this map. It looks frickin' huge. Again, there are many things of note to discuss in these pictures, aside from the obvious red beam of light, which looks very much like the mystery box light, which we will get into later. Then there's also the inclusion of the zombie shield and a new door area highlighted by the sign above, and another wall weapon which is near impossible to make out from this range, but due to its proximity to the door in this picture and its overall size, it looks too small to be a gun. So if I was to make a guess, I would go for either claymores or the galvanuckles, or something of a similar nature. And is it me, or does this look like some sort of face? The next area is a small room with strange ritualistic writing up the walls, which looks like it's just off one of the cell blocks. Oh, and what's that I see? Do my eyes deceive me? Is that the Thompson? Or in this incarnation, should I say, the Tommy gun? As I expect this gun to be very different to the Thompson from World at War, and not just because of the drum clip. And then in this area we see the LSAT being used on some undead scum, and lots of interesting things, most obviously being that of what looks like a hellhound. However, this hound looks quite different, having more of a wolf or even dragon-like qualities, and in the new trailer it looks like the hound will have something to do with the Easter egg and isn't necessarily an enemy. Then to the left of that we have what seems to be a switch for a trap, and if you look above to the top of this picture you can see what looks like a movable spiked ceiling, presumably part of the trap. Then to the right of the hellhound you can see a door with a sign above it, which to me reads roof. And to the right of that there is a strange green glowing light, which got me thinking about the new wonder weapon, as it is powered by a form of green energy or a green liquid much like the liquefier, which in turn led me to think of the possibility that the green glow coming from what looks like a cupboard could be a part for building the new wonder weapon. And lastly, for the first trailer locations, we have a sign for the warden's office behind Michael Madsen. No doubt that room will have some sort of switch, item or Easter egg within it. Now let's move on to the locations exclusively from the second trailer. First we have the dock area, which has some sort of mechanical device that looks like a cable car. Next we have a trap room with doors to two new rooms, the infirmary and cafeteria, and as you can see for yourself, this trap is some sort of acid bath, which looks pretty darn cool. In this section, when in afterlife or purgatory mode, you seem to be in what could be the warden's office, and as you can see the weapon on the wall appears to be the Uzi, and to the right of that there's a jail cell that looks like you may be able to interact with it. Then in the next shot you can see a door and another trap lever, and just before the speed cola room there are two signs, one reading wardens and the next is pretty much illegible, but seems to start with an F and may read something like facility. Then the next location looks like it's a corridor, perhaps to an elevator or just off from one of the cell blocks, which has another trap and some sort of propellers that slice and dice the zombies. In this room we can see a gun on the wall, which is unmistakably the Remington. The next locations look like offshoots from the Broadway cell block. The signs read Michigan, probably another cell block, and Citadel tunnels, which I expect will be part of Alcatraz from back when it was a Civil War fort. And again, another trap switch. Then we have the speed cola room, which due to a random white light out of the windows every now and then, leads me to think that it's located near the lighthouse. Then there's the room with the new perk Electric Cherry, which when you reload electrocutes surrounding zombies. The next room has another trap switch, and in the distance there's another wall gun. It's really hard to tell what this one is, but I'm thinking perhaps an SMG. Anywho, that's enough about the locations. It's time to address the red and blue elephants in the room. And by that I mean the red-eyed zombies and the purgatory/afterlife mode. That is, presuming they are one and the same. Anyway, when the zombies were controlled by Samantha, the zombies had yellow eyes, and when they were controlled by Richtofen, they had blue eyes. So that begs the question, who is in control of the zombies now? Does the person in control now predate our current zombie storyline, or is it someone who has travelled back in time like Maxis, or whoever or whatever it is that is communicating with Samuel J. Stuhlinger? And is that red beam of light that we saw in the picture earlier the mystery box? As if you look closely it appears to be a room filled with red light, or windows that are emanating a red light, and that isn't normal behaviour of the mystery box. So could it be something different, like a teleporter or a portal within Purgatory for example? And speaking of Purgatory or Afterlife mode, which sounds like it's going to be hella cool, as it will presumably be making it so when you die you will not become a spectator, instead you will enter the Purgatory or Afterlife dimension. Whether you can only enter Purgatory in certain places or not is still to be ascertained, but as you may well have noticed, there are many symbols throughout the trailers that are very similar to the new Purgatory symbol that's in the heads up display. Another thing to bear in mind is that there is a counter of how many times you can or have entered Purgatory. That, in tandem with the clue in the schematic of the plane you need to build to escape Alcatraz that states a cat has 9 lives and a picture of a soul leaving its body, leads me to think that there may be a limited number of times you can enter the afterlife before actually dying. And as a side note, with the whole escape plan build, begs its own questions as to whether there could be a Bible ending on this map due to escaping the island via the plane. Anyway, I think it's a really imaginative idea to give people who have been killed something to do in the Purgatory dimension with those switches and God knows what else. Another interesting thing about this map is that the whole time period era seems to be a little confusing, as the characters are slated in the official press release as Prohibition era mobsters, played by Michael Madsen, Ray Liotta, Joe Pantoliano and Chaz Palminteri. When in the background of the promo picture and this clip in the new trailer, the Golden Gate Bridge appears to be under construction, which seems to be of a consensus being previously discussed in other YouTube videos, which as far as I can figure out doesn't quite tie up, as Prohibition ended on the 5th of December 1933 and the Golden Gate Bridge didn't start construction till January 5th 1933, which is fine as it still gives 11 months for it all to add up. That is until you find out that Alcatraz wasn't turned into a federal prison until August 1934. Whether this is just an oversight from the Treyarch team, or whether this hints that time in this map will be even more messed up than in the zombies storyline in general, is as of yet unknown. Whilst looking up the Golden Gate Bridge, I found a little piece of trivia that caught my attention and seemed to tie up with the whole Purgatory theme. That was, during the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge, there was some pioneering advances in safety for construction at height due to a special safety net that would catch construction workers who fell off the bridge. The people who survived these falls formed an exclusive club known as the Halfway to Hell Club, as when a man fell to his death from a bridge, it was said that he'd gone to hell. The men who fell and were saved by the nets were said to have fallen only halfway to hell. Thus, the Halfway to Hell Club was born, which got me thinking, could the creators of Mob of the Dead have found out about this as well, and could it have something to do with Purgatory or Afterlife mode? For example, could there be an Easter egg that has something to do with jumping off something and landing in a net, thus travelling halfway to hell? Or is it just a happy coincidence? Okay, so let's take a quick look at the boss zombie, which seems to have continued with the theme of the first in the Dead series, i.e. Call of the Dead, as the boss zombie seems to be very similar to George, as I've got a feeling that even if you kill this zombie, he'll be back to wreak havoc and get rid of your perk machines and genuinely ruin your day at a later date. And as I stated earlier, I don't think the Hellhounds will be a boss round. However, I could be wrong, but trying to fight this new super zombie and the Hellhounds at the same time would be really challenging, to say the least. Righto, now it's time to list the guns confirmed and speculate on a new melee weapon with a very special ability. The M14, the Remington, the ray gun, the Tommy gun, the AK-47, the B23R, the LSAT, the Uzi, the FAL, the Executioner, and last but not least the Blunder Gat Wonder Weapon, which is a cross between a blunderbuss and a Gatling gun, and is upgradable. However, I've got a feeling it's not going to be as simple as just pack-a-punching it, but once upgraded, it seems to fire explosive acid rounds, which is pretty darn cool in my book. And now to a possible weapon that is just as exciting, The tomahawk. As you can see in this picture, Ray Liotta's character seems to be holding what looks like an axe. However, it's much more likely that it's a tomahawk, as Alcatraz is rich with Native American history. One item of history being that they nicknamed Alcatraz Evil Island and thus wouldn't go near it. Another of which being that it used to house many Native American prisoners from the 1870s onwards. And of course, the occupation of Alcatraz Island in the 1970s. All these things combined lead me to think that the weapon in this picture is a tomahawk. And not just any tomahawk, as it appears to have the power to be thrown and return to the character like a boomerang. And on top of that, it can also pull power-ups with it like a magnet as shown in this clip. Anywho, I've pretty much exhausted most theories and possibilities I can think of, so if you've enjoyed this video, please like, favourite and subscribe to help me share my theories with the YouTube community. And of course, not forgetting to tell me what you think about my ideas. And I would also like to hear your thoughts about this map. So please join in the conversation and share your theories and ideas about Mob of the Dead and zombies in general with me in the comments section below. Or if the map's already come out by the time you see this video, tell me what you would have liked to have seen in Mob of the Dead. And as always, thanks for watching.